are continuing to share the stories across the WSI network. 30 years, 30 stories, 30 experts. As I am constantly learning, 30 friends and family. That's a big common theme here, is that this is one big happy family with a million different personalities and perspectives. And so today we go to Domenic Ali, who I have had a chance to speak with before, to get a little bit of insight into his USI journey. Domenic, I'm excited to hear a little bit more about the history that you have here with WSI. I know it's not an easy question, but I mean, take me back to kind of day one. I'm curious, how did you find yourself with WSI in the first place? And maybe how did you get there?
I don't even remember how I found WSI. I knew it was on LinkedIn. I remember that. I don't know if they reached out to me or I reached out to them. It was something like that. And, there were other franchises that were reaching out to me as well at the time. And I did speak to a couple others. I found that WSI just seemed approachable. They seemed transparent, right? Which I kind of appreciate. Like, one of the first things they said to me was, hey, we're gonna give you all the tools you need to grow your business, but you got to kind of do it yourself, right? You got to grow, you got to do the work. And if you put the work in, the sky's the limit, and which I like. And so, I spoke it over with my wife at the time, and it was just the right time for me to try to start something. Everything just aligned. Stars aligned perfectly for me. It wasn't, if I would have done it 10 years earlier, I think it would have been a bit too much. But I had all the experience I needed from a corporate perspective. I knew how to manage clients. I didn't have a lot of experience on the sales side. I did a lot of pre-sales work, but I didn't know how to find a client. That was going to be the scary part for me. But that was really the only challenge coming into this. With help from Daniel and Trinda, I went through and I did all my cash flow analysis, I guess, when you're starting a business and you do that kind of upfront. But they were great. And Daniel and Trinda took tons of calls with me back and forth, answering a lot of questions. As we still see today, the network is always open to talking, right? So I contacted so many members of the network just to try to, help me understand what I was getting myself into. That took me about 6 weeks or so, and then I finally said, yeah, let's do this. So I met them in, I guess, December, and by March I signed up, right? From March until May, I did all my self-study kind of stuff, and then May, there was a week in May when I did my my onboarding, my week of onboarding, and that was amazing. And then from there, you meet a lot of friends, and the network just grows immensely for you, right? Our cohort had, I think, 8 people or so in it. I got to meet them all, and we became very close over that first week. And then over the first year, we were always meeting together and having virtual calls, and that was incredible. One of the things I kind of learned towards the end now in my last couple of years or so is WSI truly is a miracle network, right? I coined this term. I call it the miracle network because you won't find what we have, right? In franchise systems, typically all the owners are independent, they're doing their thing, they're trying to grow, and they're usually very, very busy. They'll get together once in a year, talk here and there and whatever, and they're sometimes very competitive even, depending on where you are. Where within the WSI space, if you think about what we've accomplished here, all the education that we really deliver primarily depends on the members of the network sharing their experiences, head office doing an amazing job of coordinating all that experience sharing. One thing that's been true from day one is just this fire hose of learning. It's never ever stopped. And I credit head office for that and all the hard work that they do. And that's kind of how I started, and that's where I am today.
There you go. And here you are today. That's amazing. So what do you think, or actually I would say you've kind of already described what makes WSI different. I'm curious, since you've joined, how have you seen WSI evolve and change over the years? Has that change kind of forced you to change with it?
WSI is always evolving. They're always getting better. The education system that we have has tremendously improved. Not that it was bad, it just keeps getting better and better and better. So right. when I entered the system, it was pretty good. And I think the ramp up time for success back then was a little bit longer than today's ramp up time. I'm seeing the newer members of the network, they join and they're launching their businesses way faster than I might have in my time, right? It took me a good year or so to really be comfortable to get going, but I'm seeing people accomplish this in 3 to 6 months, which is phenomenal. What took me maybe 2 years to do, these guys are now doing in 3 months. And it's a testament to the evolution of WSI, because we always had a great education system. We always had great processes, but they continue to improve based on what all of us members are saying. So I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, the fact it's 30 years, right? Most companies are happy if they make it to 5, not 30. So one of the questions I've been asking, the family, as we call it now, here is 30 years, 30 lessons. I'm curious, Domenic, what's your lesson? What's something you've learned on the wild WSI journey?
The word wild is a wild journey, and you gotta expect that. It's so hard to just pick one. I've learned so many lessons, but Mike Monahan and I talk about this all the time, that it is sincerely a wild journey. There's a lot of ups and downs. This business is like any other entrepreneur or adventure that you're going to go on. You need to expect the ups and downs. You're going to have good months. You're going to have bad months. You're going to have days that are really hard on you, where you feel like you're running at 1,000,000 miles a second. And then there's days that you're relaxing. You're actually, take a breather. But it's a lot of hard work. What I've noticed, though, is that you're trending up all the time. As long as you're doing the work and you're putting the work in, you never, ever give up. You will continue to trend upwards, right?
What advice would you give to someone? I mean, you talked about how the speed at which people are being able to launch their businesses, how that's changed. What advice would you actually give to someone who's just joining WSI or is thinking about joining the network? I'm curious. I feel like you've got some good insight here.
Trust the network, trust the process, learn as much as you can, absorb as much as you can, try to put things into practice quickly. I maybe didn't follow my own advice in my first year, because Neil's teaching me a bunch of things and say, do it like this, this, and this. And I'm like, nah, I think I could do it better. And I'll do it differently. And then, it'll take me a year or so to realize, oh, wait, Neil was right. Why didn't I just listen to him the first time? But that's part of the adventure. For me, it was the biggest lesson that I learned in the early days was just trust the process. WSI has many different things that they're going to teach you. You need to absorb as much as you can and try to learn from it and apply what you're learning as quickly as possible.
Do you think that AI is the number one reason why things are changing so much right now? Or is it more, it's part of a larger transformation in the way that people are doing business?
I'm not sure where AI is going to be in our conversation 5 years from now. Yeah. Will it be a whole separate discussion? Will it be, merged discussion? Will it be a hybrid of both? I'm not sure. I think AI has definitely disrupted everything in our lives, from our day-to-day to our long-term forecasts and what we sell and the approach that we sell it. How it's all going to look and feel when the dust settles, I give it a couple more years and we're gonna have a better picture there. But AI has definitely improved things for all of us from a productivity perspective. It might have scared a bunch of people from a learning perspective, because now it's something else you have to learn. AI is also an amazing example of WSI, right? Because WSI came and invested all the time, all the energy, all the money that's required for me to learn what I needed to do. So while I'm off running my business, they're off learning. And then when they've got a handle on it, they come back and they teach us. And then it's like, oh, look at that. All the R&D was done for me. I didn't need to do it. That was incredible, right? And then they gave me all the pieces I need just to continue on, which is phenomenal.
All right, this is the question that people get mad at me for asking because it's got a little bit on the spot, but I have faith in you. If you had to describe WSI in one word, what would that word be and why?
I think I keep going back to the word miracle, right? Is just, I think a lot of it is the 30 years that you talked about, the back and forth, the continuous improvement. I don't know how they pulled it off, but they did. We have this family, as you call it, which I love that word, by the way, this family of people who they truly act like a family. We're here for each other. One thing I always tell new members of our network is that, hey, make it a point to reach out to a member of the network every single month. No matter what, meet somebody new. And one thing you'll notice quickly enough is nobody ever says no. They always have time for you. Even the busiest person, the most successful person in the network, they'll say, yes, here's my calendar. Let's have a meeting, right? That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is. Well, Domenic, I appreciate your insights as always. It's been a great catching up with you and continue making miracles. Lead the way.